What is the other response to her campaign? Obviously, we know Trump had a lukewarm response, no nicknames, no really serious punches, but how is she polling? How have other Republicans responded to her announcement?
So I saw today that Tim Scott, he is a senator from South Carolina who is also said to be considering a presidential run and is launching a listening tour later this week throughout South Carolina. That again is being seen as a testing ground for how he's perceived by the public. He did not comment on Haley's run when asked about it by a reporter. However, she is polling pretty low behind, Trump and DeSantis and Pence. She's seems to be polling at number 4 in most surveys that we're seeing it at 3%. And that's according to a recent poll by Morning Consult. And I've seen numbers as low as 1% as well.
Yeah, that's not too promising, but how is Trump polling? What about other GOP contenders? Who are they and how are they polling as well?
So Trump and DeSantis are really neck and neck. I mentioned Tim Scott a few minutes ago. He is a South Carolina senator who has been making key hires for a super PAC in support of his political ambitions. We have Mike Pence, who is also in the mix. He has been touring the country promoting his book, which, again, as I mentioned previously, is sort of a prerequisite to if you are running for president, which brings me to Mike Pompeo, who also has a new book out and, has made a number of appearances about that and has been, non-committal when it comes to whether or not he's running for president. I think he said in January he would decide in the next handful of months. And then we have some other candidates. Asa Hutchinson, who was the governor of Arkansas until the end of last year. He's been very critical of Trump and said that he would make a decision about running in April. And then New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu also raised the prospects of a possible run this weekend. Saying that it would be an opportunity to change things when asked by CBS whether he was considering a bid. In terms of Trump's polling results, he is at 42%. That's his favorability rating among registered voters, according to a Morning Consult poll released this week. And that is compared to DeSantis's 41% and Biden's 45%. So they are all really, as I said, polling very closely within each other.
Yeah, that's neck and neck. So how would you describe Trump's 2024 presidential bid so far?
So obviously he has faced a slew of controversies since announcing his run. The Trump Organization was convicted of tax fraud for falsely inflating assets, in a bid to secure loans. He was heavily criticized following the GOP's worse than expected midterm performance that left them with, a slim majority in the House. He backed many candidates who, had losses in consequential high-profile races. And then, of course, there's the controversial dinner that he hosted with white supremacist Nick Fuentes and Kanye West at Mar-a-Lago, which produced a lot of criticism from prominent Republicans and, former Trump allies. His campaign announcement, which came a week after the midterm, was widely seen as sort of lackluster and lacking the energy of his typical rallies. And he's laid pretty low since then. In terms of fundraising, he brought in 9.5 million in the 6 weeks since announcing, which is less than he raised in the 6 weeks prior. So, there's a lot. It's very early. I do want to say that the race appears to be off to a sluggish start, but the first major candidate to jump into the 2016 GOP primary race, when obviously was an open primary, was Ted Cruz, and he announced his campaign in March 2015, while Trump announced in June. So there's still a bit of time, and DeSantis, the Florida legislative session ends in May, so it's unlikely that he will announce before then.